Hello and welcome in another video from Painting the Witcher Old World. This time we're gonna paint the Striga, the famous monster from Andrzej Sapkowski books about Geralt of Rivia. Striga is a monster that's quite common in the Slavic mythology, and it was quite often buried alive. That's why in the books Geralt had to spend the night in the grave. I'll use the basic reference card. As you can see on the screen, you can find a better quality picture online. It's gonna have a kind of like a bluish gray skin color, a bit of ripped off cloth, and then I decided to put the tombstone made from the sandstones just to have a bit of a contrast of color. The gray tombstones I think would be a bit too boring. However, I left the floor tiles in the gray. She had a kind of like a pink reddish hair. The model was painted with the black primer, and then as you can see we start with the clothing, and in this case is the Screaming Skull from Citadel. The reason I'm doing this first is because it's easier to cover up the mistakes, so you don't have to be so neat while you're doing it. When we're gonna put our skin color, it's a bit easier way to paint it in this order. Our next step is the Steel Legion drop from Citadel, and again we'll be painting the whole tombstone that she is standing on. The mini itself isn't great in that case that there is quite a lot of plastic between Striga and the tombstone, which on the renders from the campaign, it meant to be an empty space, but I understand that from the manufacturing cost it's probably most effective to do it that way. So all the space in between the monster and the tombstone I also painted with the sand color. Our next step, as you can see, I moved to the gray tone, which is the Ashen Gray, and we're painting the rest of the base. Now we're gonna move on to her skin body, so I'm mixing again the Ashen Gray with our blue color, which is the Macrage Blue, pretty much 1-to-1 with a little bit more gray, I would say, maybe like 60 to 40% gray to blue. Once we've done that, we're gonna switch to Nagarat Knight, and we're gonna paint her hair into that purple tone. Our next step, we're switching back to the the black color, we're gonna plenty water the paint, and we're gonna paint the eye holes into black. For the mouth, we're gonna, as usual, move to the Bugman's Glow, and then we're gonna paint teeth into the screaming skull. It doesn't have to be pure white. I think that kind of ivory beige would do the job in this case. Now I also decided to put the black paint on her gloves. I want to have those gloves stand a bit off from that kind of bluish grey color, and I'm gonna put a bit of a shiny lacquer on the top on that later on. And now we're gonna use a bit of a speed painting. I'm still experimenting with those, with the various effects. I think I'm gonna give up and stick with my Citadel and Vallejo. However, there is no harm, to give it a go and see how's that gonna work. So in this case, we're using the pallid bone, and I'm gonna put 2 layers of that paint on her clothing just for a darker effect. As you notice, I put a bit of a red tone as well in her mouth. And now we switch into the Seraphim Sepia, the shade that we're gonna put on the sandstone that grave is made of. And once that's done, we're gonna put a bit of a noon oil, which is the dark, which is a black wash, and we're gonna put that on the gray floor tiles, and as well on her hair and the body. And once again, as I mentioned, I'm gonna put the second layer of the pallid bone on her clothing. I want to achieve a bit darker color, so once the first layer dries off, we can easily apply more layers of the paint. The good thing about those paints, it's really do the fast effects. So if you want to have speed paint, as they named, this is the solution. However, I believe the effect is better from the manual approach, and the brush highlighting. As you can see now, I put the second layer of the Seraphim Sepia, and I put a little bit as well on her clothing, just for more contrast. Now we do a bit of a dry brushing of the tombstone. So I started off with the Steel Legion drab, with our base color. It's get a bit darker once you put the wash, so it's always good practice, to start with the same color that you painted off. My next tone is the Zandri dust. So once you finish a bit with the first tone, then do, especially on the edges and the outstanding corners, do furthermore with the lighter tone, which in this case is the Xantri dust, and then we're gonna be mixing a little bit of the Xantri dust with the Screaming Skull just for the further brightness, and then again we're just gonna cover mainly the edges of that tombstone. Again, there is quite a lot of flat surfaces, so might do a wee bit on those, let's say, as you can see on those sides, but don't do it too much. Do some areas so it doesn't go all over. It's just you're gonna have some parts of this side walls of that tombstone a little bit brighter, the other one a little bit darker, and our final highlights is the pure Screaming Skull, but again just here and there, just tiny touches to bring the contrast further up. Next we're gonna move to the Ashen Grey, and again we're gonna do a bit of a dry brushing on those floor tiles. Just be careful, you know, not to move over the tombstone you have already done. You know, in this case, corrections might be a bit difficult. Now we switch to the head, so we're gonna do first we're gonna do a bit of a dry brushing with the Nagarat Night, and then we're gonna switch over to our further highlights for this part of the model. So as you can see, I switch over to the Screaming Pink, so we're gonna do a bit of that again. You know, you don't cover the whole lot, you just do mainly from the top, and then we mix in the Screamer Pink with a little bit of ivory, which is the Screaming Skull, and do the bit brighter tone. Again, you know, her hair are going alongside, so you know, do the opposite direction, and then you know the further highlights, especially you know those hairs that coming down onto her face. Use the fine brush for that, so you can pick up some hairs here and there that will stand off a little bit more. Our next step will be highlighting her body, so we're gonna start over with a watery mixture of our previous base paint, which as you remember was the 60-40 mix of the Ashen Grey and the Macrach Blue, and then we'll be adding some brighter tone in a couple of stages later on. So first of all, you know, just cover the exposed area, just you know, remember not to go with the recesses. So we will be adding a bit of a white in a couple of stages, and every consecutive layer will be a little bit smaller than the previous one. So imagine you know, how the light's coming up from the top, and then we're gonna cover those areas with those brighter tones. So as I mentioned earlier on, we'll be adding a bit more white, and then next layer will be add a little bit more, so you do it in a couple of stages, just to highlight those areas. Make sure that water, there's plenty of water in the paint. You're not using too thick layers, otherwise they will stand off too much. Let's say kind of the tabletop standard. I usually put contrast over the smoothness. Again, if you want to paint the model, for the competition, you're probably gonna spend far more time and do it with far more stages. However, the tabletop, you don't want to spend a month painting one mini. So this is, I think this is enough to to get the satisfying effect for your board game. Once you're happy with this effect, you can move on. So my next step will be the highlighting and correcting the teeth in her mouth. And once that's done, we're gonna move to her eyes. Striga in the Slavic mythology have the red eyes, so that's why we put the black ice holes, and now we're gonna put a nice wee red eye pupils using the Mephiston red from the Citadel. Now again, once we have the red color on the palette, I decided to mix a little bit of that red and pink and do a couple of reddish pink accent on her hairs, just for a better look, bit of more contrasts. You're gonna have a nice pinky purple and the kind of reddish pink tone. It looks quite okay for me. Next we're gonna get a bit of a shiny effect, so I'm gonna put a bit of a shine art coat onto her eyes holes, as well into her mouth, and a tiny correction on her claws, and as well we're gonna put a bit of the art coat on her claws, just to make them nice and shiny. Now we're gonna put some blood again, the ready to go mix from Citadel, and we're gonna add some accents on her right arm, maybe a bit around the leg, then a tiny bit dripping on the tombstone she's standing on. It's kind of like a very dynamic position, so imagine she jump off the wall after some sort of attack, and she stained the tombstone with a bit of the blood. I think it's just gonna increase the dynamic of that posture, which it's already fine. The rim, as all my monsters from this board game, painted with the German grey from Vallejo. And now we're gonna add a bit of a moss to the stone. So first, it's a blended dishwashing sponge, ideally in the green color. So just get the fine kind of powder of that blended sponge, add a bit of the PVA glue and glue it together. And once that process is done, we're gonna put a bit of a Bieltan green, which is the green shade from Citadel. Again, use the tiny little pieces of that sponge here and there, not overloaded. I think it's gonna be a nice fine effect. Mother nearly ready. In our final stage, I'm gonna do some kind of nasty dripping from her mouth. We're gonna use the UV resin in a bit of a UV light for that as well. And on that dripping, I put a little bit of the contrast called Agaroth's Dunes. So yeah, this is it. The model is ready and painted. So thanks for watching it. I hope you like my Striga. I hope you enjoy you watching this video tutorial. I'll try do my best to put them a bit more often than recently, but I can't promise that, you know. There's some other stuff that needs to go there as well. So once again, thanks for watching. If you like that model, please don't forget to thumb up and subscribe the channel, and I hope to see you soon on the next one. Take care. See ya.